29 בנובמבר 1947.
I was anonymous 3 months ago. And now everybody goes, oh, what is a ribosome? And what are you? And touch me. And you are our pride. And you are, even the Prime Minister thinks that I am his pride.
You started off in Jerusalem.
Yeah, I was born in
Religious
Jerusalem with religious background, with a rabbi as a father.
Was a Zionistic vibe in the house?
Yeah, it was Zionistic. It was rather poor, but what we did have books. That's my father, mother, and me, and my little sister. The way my family lived was 45 truck came once in a few days with water, and we had to stand behind it, everybody with a bucket to take home for a week. The apartment, the windows were full of sandbags, and we slept on the floor about quite a long time. Where we lived was just below the stations where the snipers stood, so they could shoot down. They got my grandmother this way. She wandered around looking for chocolate for her grandchildren. And this was the end. The income of the family was close to zero, so I went to work. I was teaching young children, cleaning floors, carrying things, take care of my sister. Like every girl, I was drafted to the army, and meanwhile, while I was in the army, I kept working, but also I finished the college for teachers, so I had a profession. And then I wanted to go to kibbutz. But my mother, she still needed help. So I decided to study until I can go to the kibbutz. So I enrolled to the university, and my idea was study 3 or 4 years, and then maybe my sister will grow up, my mother will recover, and will go to the kibbutz. And only then I learned that there is a profession called scientist. I didn't even dream about the situation that I can pose a question which is interesting for me, that has value scientifically, and I have the means to at least to try to solve it, and somebody will pay for it. This was too much. This was much above what. So I didn't really go to study science for a profession, but just because I was curious. It was documented in papers and in books that it cannot be done. What we had to do is to make crystals. First thing, in order to understand structure, is to crystallize the particle you want to work on, the molecule. The ribosomes are very flexible and very non-homogeneous. It's very difficult to produce them. The ribosomes deteriorate quickly. They explained that these are the reasons. I thought that there was a more important reason, but what gave me this feeling, I wouldn't just think that's all, is that I read an article saying that polar bears in the North Pole, before hibernation, the ribosomes become packed orderly within the membranes of their cells. Why do they do this? My opinion was that they do it in order to maintain a big pool of active ribosomes. So when they get up in May or something and they start working, they need proteins. And if all the ribosomes are gone by then, because they usually deteriorate in days, and here they are months, they won't be able to do what the bears have to do in order to live. So I thought that this is the trick, to start with very active ribosomes, to find ways to keep their activity, and to try to mimic the bear, but in the test tube and with bacteria. I had these ideas. It took me a year to convince myself that it's correct, and this is how I kept going. But the world was not supportive. They looked at me as a joke.
For a long time.
Over 13, 14 years, until I could prove feasibility. Then I had competitors. Those that laughed at me became my competitors. When I did this work and people laughed at me, there were still 4 or 5 individuals, very important and very thoughtful individuals, that said a project like this shouldn't be stopped. And when they talked to me, they said, you know, this can be a Nobel Prize if you make it, but not sure you will. It means there was a buzz. I just couldn't bring myself to think about the prize non-stop. I'm trying to increase the excitement about girls going to science, not only boys, although I think scientist is a scientist. The gender doesn't play much difference here. There were fewer women in higher scientific levels because the society didn't support it. Not because women are more stupid or less dedicated, and not because it's more difficult. The society told them it's going to be difficult, and it's nicer to be doing something that is womanly, because otherwise they won't find husbands, boyfriends. A clever woman, it was a curse in my time. I think the society changes now, changes a lot, and I think that girls have a different opinion, or should have a different opinion about themselves. In terms of difficulties, to solve a problem, as I said earlier, one has to be curious and dedicated and industrious and bold, no matter what the gender is.
This is hardcore Florentine. At the period that I played a lot, perform with a million bands. I think the thing I love to do the most is to sit right here and to do whatever I feel like on the computer. I really cruise around the internet a lot, searching for anything creative. Then I express myself through the internet. It's the evolution of music and technology.
Ahmadinejad's speech yesterday could have been given by Adolf Hitler.
People are racist or just don't know, are not necessarily willing to even listen.
Sometimes it comes from ignorance.
We came this year to shaken up those people at the UN that got used to sitting in their comfortable chairs.
Nowadays it kisses the butts of its members, and they all have to have a turn, even if they were how rogue nations as they are, like Cuba and Iran and Libya and all these.
It's wonderful to really see all these people who are fighting, who are not afraid to take a stand, who are not afraid to maybe go against rules, to be provocative. I'm just blown away by the fact that we made such an impact.